All Canadian families, we are on the Titanic. The iceberg hasn't hit yet, so we're not sinking. If we don't shift course, that iceberg is coming for us.
I'm not planning on leaving. I'm fighting. We want to make this country incredibly great.
We begin to see that it really isn't about diversity. It is about punishing the people who perform beyond the mean.
For people who don't care, where do you see Canada going?
Oh, it's catastrophic. It is that bad.
What is the carbon tax doing to lower carbon emissions?
Exactly.
I love this country. I was born in this country. I believe in what this country stands for. I believe in its people. I believe as a place opportunity for all to come and live, but the path that we're on is not working. And we are not going to be what we're supposed to be if we continue along this path.
Yeah. Fellow citizens, the election is over. We still stand as a nation, somewhat.
Yeah. Hello, Canadians. Canada, from sea to sea, coast to coast.
Yep.
Great to be with all you guys today. It is Wednesday, and we are in the aftermath of an election. It was an important election.
It was cool.
A lot of interesting things that happened. Jeremy and I were lending our faces and voices, and obviously we're a big part of it, to Merit TV Canada's election coverage, which went off really well. It was our first kick at the, what's the expression?
Can.
Not cat.
Can. No.
First kick at the can.
Abuse.
Is our first kick at the can.
You don't hurt.
Yeah.
Don't mess with cats.
You don't mess with
That's
cats.
a whole another thing.
That's a Netflix documentary.
It is. Have you seen that?
Nope. You told me about it though, so I feel like I
You
have.
should watch it.
Yeah, it seems crazy.
Anyone on the online scene, don't. It's a swear.
Yeah.
F with cats.
Don't mess with cats.
Totally random side note, but that was crazy. They solved a mystery based on this. Sorry, they said they solved a crime.
Is undefeated.
It was crazy. Anyway, random.
Hey, we lots to get to, from obviously liberal minority government to Alberta independence and the sentiment of that rising. Mark Carney and his anti-American sentiment that he ran this campaign on, but President Donald Trump today is talking about great relationship and
Mark Carney coming down to Washington.
Exactly. Pierre Poilievre losing his seat. We're doing a little bit of a deeper dive into that because that is obviously a major upset. Jagmeet Singh losing his.
Mark Carney made, in my opinion, some, how would you call it? The comments towards the Carleton riding, some cheeky poking fun. It was kind of disappointing to see that. Poking fun at Carleton, Pierre Poilievre's riding. Then we got Danielle Smith's responses. Scott Moe's. Did you see Scott Moe's?
I haven't seen Scott Moe's yet.
It was very somber, but it was like
been all over Danielle Smith's.
This is a forever trend.
Why does this keep happening on my iPad?
Because you're using your iPad. This is just classic David iPad.
Oh my lordy. Let's just back
Is it
that
X?
up.
It's always X, right?
I recorded the screen recorded this video to have it separate.
We should make a compilation of David's
there's a feature
of electronics.
I tried casting it to the screen, but then it just auto played. I think I am cast to the screen now.
Computers do what they're told.
Well, technology always messes up. Let's get back on track because we got to be fast today.
Yes, we do. Sorry.
Okay, so where do you want to start? Do you want to start? Let's do a quick just of the facts recap of the evening.
Yeah.
Looks like you have the Liberals with a minority government at 169 seats shaping out today. That's very close to a majority. They were redrawing riding lines, electoral districts, I believe in 2022, 2023, and that increased the amount of ridings to 343, if I'm doing my math correctly. So 172 gets you a majority. They're just shy. NDP loses their official party status. They are sitting at, I can't remember, 7 or 8 seats. I think it's 7.
I got it all here.
So now what happens to them?
They got 7 seats.
They become independents.
So they lost 18 seats.
Yeah, that's the real. Okay, little sidebar. I've got a little bit of a bone to pick with American media, specifically some of the podcasters.
Because they're going after Pierre. Is
Patrick Bet David, who had another fellow Canadian on Viva Frey. And for some reason, they always think everything is so simplistic. It's either yes or no, right or wrong. And they're calling this election essentially the fact that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives didn't work hard enough. That's kind of their summary.
Really? I didn't watch their podcast. I saw their stuff.
I actually sent them a message saying, dude, have me on. I'll bring you context because I'm not making excuses for Conservatives. this is a very nuanced conversation. It's not, it's a typical American bravado. It's just do this better and get it done. It's like, no, there's a lot of stuff that happened.
The Conservative Party
was
it was the biggest gain in seats since 1988.
Yep.
36 years.
Yeah,
they gained 25 seats right here. 25. The Liberal Party only gained 9 seats. That like the difference there is huge.
But the interesting thing, so let's get back to that in a second. The interesting thing is what's going to happen with the NDP. Loss of official party status. Jagmeet is out. He is gone. How many? It only takes 3 independent former NDPers to cross the aisle. Meaning, we're going to join the Liberals. Are their deals going to be cut? Are they going to get the 3 and gives them a majority? Or are they going to do some sort of coalition? Or that's going to be, because if that happens, then it's going to be interesting to see, is Mark Carney going to want to try to work with Conservatives, try to heal Canada, try to lessen the divide, reach out to Western Canada, Alberta, and work together, or not?
Either way, though, there's no scenario where even if Conservatives and Bloc stick together, I guess they would need Conservatives, Bloc, and NDP.
Everybody. 100%.
Which is a difficult situation for Conservatives.
The cards are in Carney's hands, and if he can get a couple of those, or 3 of those specifically, then basically he can just say, you know what? We don't care about the West. We don't care about Conservatives. We're going to do what we want to do. There's a very good chance that could happen. So anyways, that's interesting. The Bloc underperformed as well in Quebec compared to past years.
Did Maxime get any seats?
No seats. They got 140,000 and change in votes. Which probably flipped 1 or 2. I think they're strong in, I'm not going to say because I forget the writing. It starts with a B. I was going to say Burnaby, but it's not Burnaby. It's in Ontario. They've got a strong presence in one, which definitely flipped the seat, but not enough to make a change on the election. But again, the question comes with those guys and all the money that they've been raising and where are they going to be and going, and it's interesting to see them. So anyways, there's kind of a recap of the night. And
it's made it's made quite the wake in Alberta, and that's something we are going to be seeing a lot and are seeing a lot. There's even a petition right now that apparently has officially gained enough signatures as of like hours ago for it to officially trigger a referendum. Yeah,
and to bring clarity to that, the official process for a referendum, Premier Danielle Smith today, it was Bill C-50 something, changed the threshold in which the amount of, I think it used to be 600,000, which is a significant portion of the province. Number. I think they dropped it to 170, 180,000. And it's not because you have to have an official government sheet, I guess, where you got the names, information, and address of the people who officially sign it to kick the referendum into motion. Right now, it is independent groups. We've seen people like Jeffrey Rath, and I didn't even know there's a party called the Republican Party, but I don't think they're an official something. Party. I didn't know either. No one cares yet about that, but obviously they're declaring themselves American on that front. My point in saying this, there's independent groups that are essentially grabbing information and yes, getting signups of people who want to be or have a referendum and want independence, and they are claiming they've crossed that threshold, which, just so everybody's aware, is significant. That is a significant amount of the population, and that's not something you just brush to this side. So essentially, they're being ready to migrate that information for when this official document or this official process goes through with the Alberta government. And Danielle Smith is seemingly sympathetic to the fact of at least allowing the citizens of Alberta to speak and to be in control of their own future. Plus, I think it's a message to the Liberals and to Carney of stating Alberta is going to be in control of our future. If Ottawa does not help Alberta, we're going to be drivers of our own future, which, you know what? Good on her, good on the people for moving that direction. I don't have a problem with people exercising that right and moving that direction. Again, personally don't know where I stand, but maybe another episode we'll get into that. But I'm willing to accept the direction that it goes. I still want a full Canada. I want to work towards that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not ready to call it quits on that yet, like a lot of people are. But that's my 2 quick cents.
And that's in a functioning country that balances and works together. That'd be my thoughts. Is that there's just as any country is, there's clearly 2 ideas, but we have to figure out a way to work together.
And that's a tough balance.
Yeah.
And I think, and we'll go to this in a little bit, but yesterday I was chatting with Dr. Phil out of the States and wanted his perspective on a couple things about Donald Trump, the American perspective. But we'll get to these words in a couple. He has some really wise words about how to, because living in a country like the U.S., obviously political divide as well.
Yep.
And in Canada, I want to be someone that helps narrow that divide. You and I both are that. We want to bring help Canada heal. We believe Canada can be stronger when unified. I have my doubts whether it can or can't, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to put in the effort to continue to do that and to do what we can, especially to help the media landscape move towards. That's a major part of the of our country coming together is the media as well, representing voices properly across Canada.
Arguably one of the most important.
Yeah,
I would think so. Because it's the voice to the people. It's where they get the data, information, and interpretation.
Yep.
So
okay.
it's a slippery slope. One of the things that I just wanted to point out, Danielle Smith's, she posted this on social media right after Mark Carney's victory. And it's a long read, so I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read the last little bit. It says, as Premier, I will not permit the status quo to continue. Albertans are proud Canadians that want the nation to be strong, prosperous, and united. So like she's stating the same thing there. But we will no longer tolerate having our industries threatened and our resources landlocked by Ottawa. If in the weeks and months ahead, Albertans will have the opportunity to discuss our province's future, assess various options for strengthening and protecting our province against future hostile acts of Ottawa, like very strong words, and to ultimately choose a path forward. As Premier, I will facilitate and lead the discussion and process with the sincere hope of securing a prosperous future for our province within a united Canada that respects our province's constitutional rights, facilitates rather than blocks the development and exports of our abundant resources, and treats us as a valued and respected partner within Confederation. Our government will be holding a special caucus meeting, and she says they'll know more after that.
Great.
Wow.
See, I think that's fantastic because
good.
this is the idea of confederation is that you have the balance of power between federal and provincial, and that balance is out of whack, especially from Alberta's perspective, Saskatchewan's perspective, and you have to get that. But here's a word of warning just for people. Let's say if you are in Alberta and you are part of that group where you are an Alberta separatist and you are or an Alberta independent, or even if you're going so far to say, I want to be part of the U.S., if we're going to go down this path of, like Danielle Smith is about bringing Ottawa and showing them this is the line you must cross in order for us to be able to work together effectively for the best of Albertans and the best of this province, we have to be willing. It has to be more than just a bluff to get our independence. And I know there's a lot of hardcore people who say, we're not bluffing, but there's a lot of people who would be on the edge who like the idea of it, but are we willing to actually go through with it and separate from Canada? Because I think in order, judging by Liberals and what they ran on and Mark Carney, this is just by track record so far, I don't see them reaching out to try to make Alberta's interest further ahead. So we have to be willing to actually go all the way if we're going to bring certain things up and, for lack of a better word, threaten to leave Canada. You have to be willing to see it through. That's non-negotiable. For them to take you seriously, 100%. You have to be able to. So anyways, just
it has to be full. You can't be half-baked on that. Scott Moe's comments, did you watch his video?
I missed it.
He was politically correct through the whole thing, quoting Mark Carney, because a lot of the words that Danielle Smith's been quoting him on, and Scott Moe, who's the Premier of Saskatchewan, has also been quoting him on making Canadian a resource what's the word, powerhouse or something like that?
Mark Carney said that.
So they're all using those words, being like, we agree with your words on this. But Scott Moe's video was like this. I'll just reenact a little bit. Congratulations, Mark Carney, on your win. Like, he was just like...
just full of joy.
Just the saddest, like,
super
demeanor
excited
ever,
man.
Like, clearly reading a teleprompter and just like... maybe I'm slightly exaggerating.
The thing with Mark Carney's comments about... Canada being energy superpower, he clarified further on a French show after the French debates or just before the French debates by talking and clarified by saying he wants to help Canada with the energy transition process.
That's why he got a lot of scrutiny for English and French.
Exactly.
Right?
He's never once used words about building new pipelines, boots on the ground. He doesn't use the word pipelines. Like he's promoting Bill C-69. No new pipelines. He's doubling down on that. He's a guy, if you read his book Values, he's a guy that believes in net zero. Net zero, according to that ideology, does not work with Alberta, Canada's energy resources in the way that it is. Even though there's an argument to be made, we're leaders in the world in how to do it and actually can make the world a better place continually by having more and more Canadian energy getting out. But my point in saying that is it's going to be, there's a lot of dichotomies there. And if Mark Carney wants to work with the West, that would be an easy first step to say, we want to work with you about the energy. Let's get energy across the country. Let's further this cause. Let's make Alberta and Canada more wealthy when it comes to this. But I didn't see that. And in fact, in Mark Carney's speech on election night, I felt that was a great opportunity to extend an olive branch and to reach across the aisle and say, Conservatives, let's work together. Let's build a Canada that we all can be proud of. Let's find common ground. Let's find ways to move Canada forward. Like, that is the speech of a real leader.
And there was none of that.
In fact, he did the opposite, saying, I'm looking forward to working with so-and-so who replaced Pierre Poilievre's seat. That's a slight and that's a jab.
And then did it with a smirk and a smile and a jab. And the thing that's worth people need to know about is that with Pierre Poilievre's intention to stay in as leader, he now needs to go find an MP's seat.
Yes.
And then essentially ask them to step down and take their seat. And so that's going to have to take place in a by-election. That's right. Which apparently Prime Minister can delay.
Up to 6 or 8 months, I believe.
8 months, apparently.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that means that Pierre can't be in the House.
That's right. He can't.
Which is wild.
Doesn't have a seat.
So a lot can happen in the next 8 months without their leader being in there.
Yeah. And Mark Carney was the leader of the Liberal Party without having a seat.
Yeah.
It has been done before. And this type of stuff, just so everyone, I've seen people throw out the term undemocratic. There will be a by-election, which is part of the process that we go through. I'm not in agreement with it necessarily because I argued against that process as Mark Carney took on the Prime Minister's office through that method. But this has happened before, and most likely there'll be someone in the Conservative Party who isn't like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this, or they're there because they maybe got pushed into it or whatever. So I'm sure there'll be someone who will, and there'll be deals made behind the scene to figure and compensate them. But it sounds like he might become an Albertan in that sense in terms of finding a seat.
Yep. And
we'll see.
One of the things, there's this guy who's got a large YouTube following. I wish I had his page here. I don't. Who was he's a liberal, and he's very, very proud of it. And he was kind of like spitting in the faces of Conservatives on his page, being like, we knew it. We had no worry about it. We did this. And he was like arrogant, extremely arrogant. And the thing that I found so interesting was that they didn't take into consideration that this wasn't a Liberal landslide or victory by any means. Yes, they gained seats, but they gained the NDP's collapsing seats.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so to say we knew, it's like, well, there's no way you could have said that. They got lucky that the NDP started to collapse.
That's the real story.
That's the real story.
Yeah.
And so had the NDP actually stuck together, this would be a Conservative minority, no question. So
at the rate that the Conservatives were polling and the votes that they received, it's actually slightly more, if I'm correct on the most updated numbers, than what Justin Trudeau had in 2015 for his majority. It's on par with what Stephen Harper got for his majority. Yeah. It's on par for what Jean Chrétien got for his majority. It's not, there's no collapse of the Conservatives. Like if we're trying to be real straight with the numbers, there's no collapse. They actually held the line with where they were. Yes, we can maybe criticize in hindsight their choices of not doing more social media, even typical Americans though, saying they should have come on more, like Joe Rogan, and apparently his invites. And you know what? Maybe it would have benefited. He did Jordan Peterson, right? He did Specifics. He did Jasmine Lane here as a Canadian. They did some others. But apparently there's opportunities to go do the whole rounds in the U.S. And he chose not to. And you know what? They're going to live and die by their decisions.
For sure.
We can criticize strategy, but it's not like they fell off a cliff. They held the line.
My point is that there's a clear growing sentiment for the Conservative values if they've gained 25 seats across the country. So that's the point where I'm going, you can't ignore that. No matter what side you're on, you can't ignore that. That's a huge increase.
And it's going to be overshadowed, obviously, by Pierre Poilievre losing his seat.
His seat, of course.
Anyways, we're going to go a little quicker this evening, everybody, and a little bit shorter, even though there's a ton to talk about. I want to play this clip from Donald Trump from today. Here we go.
Talk about American betrayal. Are you interested in rebuilding relations with Canada? And if so, how?
No, well, I think we're going to have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. He said, "Let's make a deal." You know, he was running for office. They both hated Trump, and it was the one that hated Trump, I think, the least that won. I actually think the Conservative hated me much more than the so-called liberal. He's a pretty liberal guy. But no, I spoke to him yesterday. Couldn't have been nicer. And I congratulated him. You know, it was a very mixed signal because it's almost even, which makes it very complicated for the country. It's a pretty tight race. But he's a very nice gentleman, and he's going to come to the White House very shortly.
which is great.
Yep.
And also, I have a lot of questions. And one of them is Mark Carney ran on massive anti-American sentiment, not just anti-Trump, anti-American. Purchasing ads in the United States. America has become an enemy. Quote, our relationship with them and how it was has changed. He says we have to fundamentally rethink how we trade, referring to the connection with U.S. He ran on that. And Donald Trump's comments, and those are his comments, I wonder if there's more of a relationship there than we think. I know there's connections with Brookfield, Jared Kushner.
Well, Jordan Peterson's podcast with Joe that was like a week ago. Jordan went into the relationships that Prime Minister Mark Carney has in the world, and he was saying like that's if there's anything that Trump should be worried about, it's that Mark Carney's connections. He's extremely connected. To quote Jordan Peterson, he was saying that would be Trump's worry, is the connections that Mark Carney has. And so I don't really know what that means. Who and what, I'm not quite sure.
Well, I touched on this a bit in a couple of the things I've written. He's been, so to speak, groomed in the halls of the WEF, the European Union, from Brussels to Davos, international banking, governor of the Bank of England, governor of the Bank of Canada. That's the halls that he walks in. Those are the people he rubs shoulders with. And again, I'm not trying to bring up a debate of good versus evil. And these are different ideologies on how to govern and how to move forward. And sure, we can argue all day long about the nature of them and all that. And I think most people know where we stand. But that's his influence. And you can read all about it in his book, Values. You can it's out there. I love what Jordan Peterson made me laugh. Often doesn't make me laugh, but as one he talked about his values book, he goes, what you need to read in the book Values, read the first 3 chapters, read the last 3 chapters. The rest of the book is simply there to make the book thick. He says you get everything you need to know in the first 3 and the last 3, and about his fundamentals, about his ideologies, net zero, all of that stuff, which is really important to know as the Prime Minister of Canada. Anyways,
funny.
We got to move on from Mark Carney. Anything else on him?
I'd love to see your Dr. Phil clip.
Yes. Can we? Do I have that, or do you guys have that in the back? Play that, please. My hope is that as Canada, we can actually look within ourselves and find what can we do to actually chart our own course, can obviously maintain our sovereignty and be unified, but not just blame outside forces for problems that I believe we've ultimately started from within.
Well, national unity is a great thing if it's for the right reasons, and you have to distinguish between pride and being united by victimhood. And pride leads to patriotism, and that's great, and Canada is amazing, and Canadians should be proud. But when victimhood unites people, that's not really patriotism, that's kind of being a passenger. And when you're a victim, you're also a passenger, and things happen to you like happens to you. Victimhood is a dangerous temptation, and it seems like Canada needs to define the truth, not Donald Trump. Victims aren't in charge of their lives or their stories or their outcomes, and that's why this election seems so important. And we've had a great relationship between America and Canada, and I've made so many trips to Canada, and I've had affiliates in Canada over the last 25 years, and had such a great and warm relationship with Canadians. And I've produced primetime television shows there for CBS, and there are so many great tradesmen and craftsmen in Canada that have so much to offer to the American market. And I would hate for anything to break down this great relationship that we've had between America and Canada. And as somebody that works with the Canadian people, I just hate to see tension between the two countries exist, because it's been such a great relationship for so long. I just hate to see anything come between the two countries.
That's a fantastic clip. There's so much to unpack in that.
Yeah, there is.
Wow.
I think the first thing that stands out to me, national pride is great. You want patriotism, but he says, but when it's rooted in victimhood, that's not. And he talks about how when you're a victim, you're a passenger, meaning you're not in control of your own future. and you and I have discussed this at length, that this whole Donald Trump tariff talk has been a distraction, and Mark Carney running on this anti-American sentiment. My fear is that Canadians and this Canadian patriotism, this Canada first, this elbows up mentality is actually rooted and it's wrapped around victimhood. We are victims of what Donald Trump is trying to do to us. And we're not victims. That's not what Canada is. The thing is, we've created our own problems. We're economically vulnerable because of our own doings, our own governance, the policies that the last government and maybe some of before have initiated. And I love what he said there, because let's be patriotic and proud for who we are and what we can do and what we can accomplish. But let's not let that be rooted in victimhood, meaning we're a victim of Donald Trump and the big bad boogeyman to the south. Like, that's such a wise words from Dr. Phil there.
Yeah, that's really good. To stay in victimhood is to, exactly like he said, stay in the passenger seat, which means we can't have a vision forward. We can't have a promising future. We can't build. We can't nothing. You just succumb to whatever is dominating or bullying you. And that's not the country we're in. That's not the country that is full of opportunity, and we are full of opportunity. And I think it's important for us to know. Sometimes we get criticized for being too negative to this, but that's only because we're looking for things that can be fixed. But when you look at actually the potential of our country, it's the moon. We can go to the moon, man. Like, hearing Kirk Lubomov's take on the potential of Canada, that was so refreshing to hear. Talking about our population size with the potential is an upside that no country has. It's amazing.
Like you look at Canada and just the raw ingredients that we have, the fact that we have, you look at natural resources, you look at our oil and gas, you look at our rare earth minerals, you look at the fact that we have 3 oceans surrounding us, you look at the relationships we built over here, you look at the ingenuity that has started and has come from Canada. Gosh, even you want to go in the entertainment factor, how many wonderful entertainers, comedians has Canada produced? Canadians are unique and wonderful, and we have built amazing ideas. Like, you look at a lot of tech startups and tech companies that have come here and have moved on. Like, we have got the potential, so we got to really harness that, look at that as to where we can go and go forward that way.
Totally agree. No, I'm looking forward to see what happens. There's lots to talk about, and we'll keep talking about it. Thank you, citizens. We'll see you guys next time.